I did kind of well enough in that company to take care of myself, but then I kind of had this passion for cars. So it turns out in the mid 80s, there was the dollar was very strong against the Deutschmark.
Mm-hmm.
So you could go import Mercedes and Porsches from Germany. That was called the gray market car business. So then I was in the gray market car business.
You said green market?
Gray market.
Gray market.
Yeah.
Gray market car business.
Gray market car business. Right? You would bring in cars from Germany, Porsches and Mercedes from Germany. You retrofit them for the Department of Transportation and the EPA, and then you could sell them for like $10,000 less than you could buy them at a dealer. So that ended up being kind of a big industry for a little while until the dollar Deutschmark, the exchange rate flipped. So I'm doing that, and then I got a call from a company who somehow heard about me, and they said, "Hey, why don't you come to LA and help us in this?" So I had a friend that was in LA, and right, I'm 24, got nothing else to do, so I go to LA. So I'm living in LA. I'm doing work with them, doing some advisory work for them for a little while, and then the exchange rate flips.
Okay, this is doing the car stuff too, the gray market car stuff.
Exactly, this is doing the gray market car stuff. So I went there to help them. All of a sudden, the exchange rate flips. There's no more business.
Mm-hmm.
So I started writing programs for a commodity trading fund, and this was the first Bernie Madoff. So I was teaching myself trading theory, and I was writing these programs, but he would take all the good trades and put it in his account and spread out all the bad trades to his customers.
Wow.
So I see this, and I said, they're going to throw the programmer in jail. So I called my father and said, "Hey, can I stay at your house? I think I'm going to come back to Chicago." And I reached out to somebody that I had known who was a trader at the Mercantile Exchange. And I said, "I will work for you for free for 6 months if you just let me on the floor." So when I was writing these programs, I had started really studying trading, and I got pretty good at writing algorithms that would tell you when to place trades. So I started giving these recommendations to people to test and see whether these algorithms worked or not. So it turns out they kind of worked. So I decided I'm coming back to Chicago. I work for free for 6 months. So my day would typically start out I asked my father my parents if I could stay. It was really my mother that had to give the okay. So I'm there, I'm giving them some rent, but they give me a room. My day would start out at 3:30. I would get up because they were living in Wheaton. I'd have to take the train downtown because of trading. I had to be there by 6 o'clock. So I'd get up at 3, get on the train, go down there, and then I would just study. So I would work for free between whenever the market opened, like 7 to 1:30 or 2. I started out in the Japanese yen, then I moved to the euro dollars, and then I started just later trading for myself. But my day would start at 3:30 until I had to force myself to go to sleep. I would go to the library until that closed at the Merc until like 5. At 5, I would then go home and in fact, I never wanted to leave my room. So I put a weight set inside my room so I'd never have to leave my room. So I did that, and I got pretty good at trading. And then this would have been in 1989, which was a really hard year for me. A couple things happened. I funded my best friend's brother-in-law's business. It's a mistake. Uh, and that year, a guy who was like my brother, his name was Yun Goicoechea. He's from Venezuela.
Mhm.
And we would always be having these discussions about what was worse, communism or racism.
Mhm.
Now, of course, I knew nothing really about communism outside watching things like Animal Farm and stuff like that. I had no practical connection.
Sure.
My my maternal grandfather was from Cuba, but he died when my mother was young, so he left. I mean, I'm way pre Castro,
Mhm.
but his family, my friend Yun's family, had to leave because of Castro. So they lost everything and they actually experienced that. Um, and I remember this whole time we were talking, we would have these things, and I remember that I was later, now I remember I was so uninformed about communism and socialism.
Mhm.
Um, so anyway, in 1989, he got killed. Him and his sister were in a car. They got killed by a drunk driver.
Oh man, sorry to hear
Uh,
that.
so I remember, and I'm not an emotional person. I can count on my hands how many times I've cried in my whole life. But that was one. I was just messed up for 6 months uh, because I also learned from him to love my family more
Hmm.
because he was a guy. I mean, he was really close to his family. He was like his mother was his best friend, and he was felt responsible for his younger brothers. He was a guy who was all about family,
Hmm.
and he was really my best friend.
About
That was
about the same age as you then, Robert?
yes, exact same age.
Okay.
He was my birthday is December 31st. His is January 22nd.
Okay.
So it was same age exactly. Uh, Family paid for me to go to Venezuela. It's the first time I went to Venezuela. I was 23 years old. Um, but yeah, we were really close friends. And so 1990, then I ended up having to take over this business because I had introduced this person to people that I knew, and he hadn't done a good job. And I remember that my father said about your reputation. So I felt my reputation was tied to this work, and I had to go stop trading, which I really loved because it fit my personality, and go clean up this mess. And then from there, I turned that into a company that wrote financial modeling systems. So I wrote most of the financial modeling systems for Sears and Abbott Labs and Mellon Bank and Farmers and a lot of companies. In fact, I think I wrote the world's largest spreadsheet-based financial modeling system. I had created a methodology for creating applications using enterprise-wide applications using spreadsheets. And so I did that. I took it over, and then a couple years later, my father retired from IBM, and we started a company called Blackwell Consulting together. So this has been '92 when IBM uh, essentially paid people to leave. They gave people packages. All the good people took the packages, and my father was one of them. So we started Blackwell Consulting together. So I always tried to convince. I knew my father was a great salesperson, and I wasn't. So I tried to get my father. Said, "Why don't you leave, and you can come work with me? I'll do all the technical stuff. I'll do the real work. You can just do the sales. You just do that sales stuff." Yeah, of course, in his head he's laughing. Uh, and now, I know why. Um, so he left. He started Blackwell Consulting, and he and I were partners in the company. We took this little company I had, created Blackwell Consulting, and the company did well, but since I looked at the world really different from my father. My father was really a relationship person. He has extremely high emotional intelligence. I didn't at all. In fact, when I started my company, I remember my father, he came to my office, and I had an office, and I had about 6 people that worked for the company. They were sitting in the next office together on metal chairs. And my father said to me, never treat yourself better than you treat your people.
Absolutely.
It's your responsibility to serve them so they can serve the customers. So I have never since then ever had an office as good as anybody else in the company.
No, it's not. So not even. So yours has been not as nice as anybody else in the company. You're saying.
No,
So.
I had nothing better. It's some rules in our company. Nobody can call me boss
Mhm.
because my responsibility is to serve the people that serve our
Awesome.
customers.
Awesome.
This is not about me. So my name has never been on the company. I'm just a part of the team that has I call it distinct responsibility. And that's how I really see the world. So
How long have you thought that way? Your dad's always thought that way. It sounds like he taught you at a young age.
yeah, my father's always taught me to treat people well. But listen, if you have kids, hopefully your kids are smarter than his kid. You always have to say you're missing something here. You should think about this differently.
Sure. Well, but what you described though is what I describe as that upside down pyramid basically, right? If you're a real leader, you're not there. People aren't serving you; you're serving those that are on your team, right? If you're a great coach, a great manager, CEO, you're at the bottom. You're an upside down pyramid. You're in the bottom, and you have all those people above you, including your customers and vendors. You better be serving, otherwise you're just really not a very good leader compared to old school methodology of here's this pyramid and here's our organizational chart and you're at the top and all these people are there working for you, boss, and they're here to serve you. Well, that's in my opinion, that's a bad culture. Or maybe it's just not my culture, right?
No, I would say, first of all, people don't work for the company, they work for themselves.
Yeah.
And they will work for you as long as it's the best option. Now, if they have no options, they will tolerate a bad environment.
Yeah.
But as soon as they have a better option, they're going to bolt.
And if your whole company, your organization is left with people that have no other options, you probably don't have the strongest team to compete in the world.
Yeah. I say no company can grow faster than its ability to attract and retain great people.